Good evening, everyone. It is the exceedingly rare on-time start for a weekly Q&A here on Tuesday nights on Chiefs Digest. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad anyone who can join us this week. I know it's a holiday week, so usually a little bit lighter turnout, so we might get a little bit fewer questions, but just means that we can talk about them a little bit more. Oh man, I need to adjust my camera so that you don't have to look at my exercise equipment that doesn't get used enough and the big wide shot. So you once again get to see a little bit about the how the sausage gets made over here. It's gonna have to adjust everything, but yes, hooray! It is Q&A day, Luttrell, and Brian, as always, my hype man, reminding everybody to hit that like button. Let's see here. See if we can just do a quick zoom, and then I think my head's probably, well, we'll just back up here a little bit, and we'll make it work. So welcome everybody, and a little bit of a quiet week. I mean, the two biggest Chiefs news this week are just well, maybe three biggest things are just retirements and folks stepping away. Last week, well, I guess during OTAs when Chiefs announced that Dan Mears was going to be retiring as KC Wolf, and they've been celebrating him today. A lot of videos and photos, and of course, my all-time favorite photo of KC Wolf with him tackling the guy that ran out onto the field and helping security bring him down. That was a lot of fun. That was one of my favorite sports photos of all time. Still love that one. But Dan just, I mean, longest tenured mascot in the NFL. He is absolutely the best. And so I know a lot of Chiefs fans will be missing him. Yesterday was Adam Teicher's last day on the beat for ESPN. He is retiring and riding off into the sunset in the great old West. Won't be going to Yellowstone, Luttrell, but will be going to Colorado. Hoping to catch up with him when the Chiefs are in Denver. He's always said, hey, we'll get together with the writers and reporters for a beer. So I'm looking forward to that. Also, in case anyone has missed it, the Chiefs haven't announced this yet, but Art Haynes has announced that he is not going to be returning this season for the Chiefs postgame show, pregame and postgame show. Art has been obviously a mainstay for that for better part of 2 decades. I'm trying to remember how many years that Art has been on it. I think he said 16, maybe more than that. But Art is legendary broadcaster in the state of Missouri. He has been at it for 45 years plus. I know he got his start one point down in Dallas. He was working for the Cowboys, and he finished his career working with the Chiefs. He's got one more game left. He's going to be doing Missouri State's first game in the Conference USA, and then that is going to be his last game on the mic for the Bears at Missouri State. I got to work with Art a little bit when I was in Springfield, and he was doing play-by-play for Missouri State, Southwest Missouri State back then. I worked at KTXR, the gentle giant of the Ozarks back then. Now, I think KTXR is technically, I think it's like it's gone through some iterations. Back then, yes, it was not exactly classical music. Easy listening was the format of choice of those days. It was an odd format. I'm just going to tell you right now. It was an odd mix of music that I can't quite explain, but it was something else, all right. But we were the flagship station for Southwest Missouri State sports, and I got to work with Art a few times there. Art would never remember me because I was just one of many studio producers, engineers going through that whole process. But I got to talk to him about that a few years ago, and really appreciated that. As I'm sure many of you know, Art's been going through health struggles the last few years, but has just done an absolutely incredible job coming back. The voice has been there, and he came back to do the pregame and postgame shows for the Chiefs, and he's continued to do play-by-play for the Missouri State Bears, a legend, a Hall of Famer. So all three of those guys are just absolutely incredible people. Art Haynes, Adam Teicher, Dan Mears, all three of the best at doing what they do. So I'm glad to see and hope that they continue to get all of the focus and the attention that they deserve. I know that the Chiefs usually a little bit later announce their radio team and studio team, and obviously they have the unfortunate duty for also replacing Dan Israel that we sadly lost after the Super Bowl this year. Dan passing away, just another terrible loss. So there will be a couple of new faces on the Chiefs radio network this year, and like I said, I figure that here in the next few weeks they'll probably be announcing those changes and who will be on the radio show. I have not heard yet who will be replacing Art. Maybe somebody out there has, but I was going to say, I saw Scott had a comment. Art has a great Saturday morning outdoor and fishing show in Springfield sports radio stations. And I know Art used to, I don't know that he still does. I think he pops in from time to time, does the afternoon shows down on ESPN The Jock in Springfield. I've joined Art on that show a few times. And yeah, just Art's a great guy. And if you've lived in Springfield, obviously you've known Art. He has been part of that scene for 40 years in Springfield. So big part of my life growing up, and listening to him on the radio and TV, nothing but the best. I know I'm sure Art would love to keep going, but the fact that he came back to do what he's been doing the last few years after the illness has been absolutely amazing. His spirit and strength is just absolutely out of this world. So happy for him to be able to go out on his terms. It's incredible. So I don't have anything else to talk about. I'm going to let you all control the journey tonight. Nick is planning on trying to stop in later, so if you got any questions for Nick, you can fire with him now, and I'll just flag them for later. Like I said, I figured it'll be probably a little bit more of a laid-back, easy-going conversation tonight, but we'll just start off with the first one from Chris. Do you miss the days when training camp would open this week? I'm lucky enough. I don't go back that far. I mean, I was at least on the old CBA, so it seemed like July 15th-ish was, I feel like, kind of the day that when camp was opening. I don't go back as long as Teicher does, and you would get camp in early July and the two-a-days and all that nonsense. No, I'm glad that I don't have to be a part of that. I think the two-a-days were probably a little bit easier up in River Falls, but two-a-days in St. Joe does not sound interesting to me at all, Chris. So no, I am definitely not afraid, not sad to be missing that. Luttrell, for all the Yellowstone enthusiasts, did you know that Rip was in Dazed and Confused? Just learned that this week. I just learned it when you told me, Luttrell. So no, I did not. I saw you mention this before we started, so I was quickly looking it up. Did not know that Rip was also did like a 4-episode stretch on arc on ER, and he was also in Good Will Hunting. So no, I did not know either of those things. So I'm like you. I just learned that today. So more and more things we learned about Yellowstone, and reminds me, I'm hoping that Nick got out to the grocery store today or yesterday. So hoping we get a hashtag Hi-Vee finds that we get to learn a little bit more about if and when Nick's able to join us. So Scott, why does the national media have nothing but love for Karlaftis, but gets a lot of hate from people within the kingdom? I think you're talking about Karlaftis there. It's a good question, Scott, because I feel like I've kind of noticed that too. Maybe this offseason more than most, because it feels like Karlaftis is a popular player as far as nationally, with people feeling like that he is going to have a breakout year in year 4. Year 4 can be a big year for edge rushers. Max Crosby, year 4 was the year that he introduced himself and really burst out on the scene. Daniel Hunter was kind of the same way. They both had 15 sacks in year 4. I mean, I think you could probably say they were a little bit better maybe than Karlaftis. Maybe not. I mean, I think Karlaftis has been good, and you're right. I mean, he does get a little bit of grief, and I remember, I think this would have been, through year 2, because it was when Aiden Hutchinson was a little bit banged up and everything. But, at that point, Joe Cullen was keeping track, and he was like, I mean, at that point, George Karlaftis had more sacks than anybody else in that draft class, than even Hutchinson. Now, I think Hutchinson's passed him obviously since then, but I think Karlaftis still has the second most sacks from that 2022 draft class. He's not been a bad pick at all. He's been decent. I mean, and last year, I think, you could argue that both he and Chris, probably both a little bit of victim of bad luck. We've talked about before that sacks are sometimes an elusive statistic, and that's why the Chiefs, they talk about affecting the quarterback, and there's other ways that you can affect a quarterback. And now a lot of times when you're talking about that, you might be making an excuse for a bad defense, but that's not what the Chiefs had last year. But remember, they went from back-to-back seasons where they had 55 sacks in back-to-back seasons, and last year took a step backwards. But a lot of the metrics, especially for both Jones and Karlaftis, as far as their pressures, how close they were getting to the quarterback when he released the football, a lot of those were very similar. And it just goes, to once again, that there's not always a strong correlation between pressures, ability to get to the quarterback and affect the ball, and sack numbers. Sometimes, I mean, a quarterback can, it doesn't take many times for a quarterback to just escape from the grasp or elude a rusher, edge rusher slips. I mean, you can get bad breaks that just affect your ability to pile up the sacks, but it doesn't mean that you're having a bad season. I mean, it's just a handful of plays can go the opposite way, and all of a sudden you have 5 sacks instead of 10. And it's not that there's anything wrong with what you're doing. It just, might be running into some bad luck. There are players who have absolutely had great seasons that or outlier seasons, had good luck. I mean, they had the same metrics, same pressure rate, same win rate, all of these things that they normally have. It's just a couple of extra times they got to the quarterback, and so maybe instead of 10 sacks, they had 15. I think Karlaftis, I think it's because of his advanced metrics, and you look at his numbers, you look at his pressure rates, you look at his win rates, that makes him a popular player, I think, from a national perspective. I don't necessarily know that I have a good grasp, Scott, on, why maybe Karlaftis doesn't have the local popularity that he seems to have nationally. I do think, I mean, Chiefs fans like Karlaftis. I mean, I don't think there's any real hate necessarily. But there is criticism. And once again, I mean, I think it's probably a little bit to do with last year. Maybe it's just a little bit to do with, hasn't always had the sacks that match his metrics. And again, I mean, that to me is a little bit sometimes just, luck, and it can be skewed. But I think this is a big year for Karlaftis. Nationally, a lot of people are expecting him to have a breakout season. I think it's distinctly possible. Like I said, year 4, that's been a big year for a lot of players at that position. So let's see what happens. Chris, so our burgers and dogs or some barbecue on tap for the Ham family on the 4th. Actually started to have a brief conversation about this earlier today with the father-in-law, because I was originally just planning on cooking up some burgers. Hey, baked beans are absolutely part of my agenda for the 4th of July. I love a good coleslaw too, so that would be it. I tell you what, I mean, I've just been more of a burgers than dogs guy lately. So that's what I was going to do, hot dog or hamburgers on the 4th. But now apparently father-in-law wants to order from Fairway Meat Market and wants me to pick it up. So, hey, if he wants to pick up the tab, then that's okay. That's okay. We can do that. So we'll see what happens. If that's the case, then we might end up with a few different meats. I'd still like to make some beans, because I can finish off for Memorial Day. I made baked beans with 4 cans of baked beans, and I'm pretty sure that I ate 80% of that output, and it was gone in like 3 days. So Yeah, I might need to just dial it back a little bit, but I do like my baked beans. Coleslaw, some type of corn. Corn on the cob is great, but corn in any form, Chris, is what I need. And that's pretty much that's all I need for the 4th of July. So yeah, I don't know if we'll end up with ham. I'm not a ham guy on the 4th. Ham family for Christmas. That's what we are. We're a ham family, Chris. I'm glad you remember that. Scott, another question: would less Travis Kelce make a better Travis Kelce this year? I've been on team load management for Travis for a few years now, and yes, I do think that less Travis Kelce would be good for Travis and for the Chiefs this year. Going back, because if I'm not mistaken, his snap counts, and part of this was, I think that the Chiefs wanted to do more snap and load management with Travis last year, but what really got in the way were all the injuries. I mean, at the receiver spot, they had to, at that point, they were pretty much forced to go into a situation where they had to play Travis more than they wanted to, because Patrick needed him. He needed him on the field. So pulling it up real quick to see where he came out, so I don't just make it up off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, he went from 775 snaps in 2023 in 15 games to 940 in 2024. 84% of the offensive snaps, up from 77. I think that 2023 was the right direction. I mean, I think that, and honestly, if Travis played 70% of the snaps, I mean, that's only 14% fewer snaps. It's not a huge number, but that's significant. I think that alone would help his production and make him a more effective player. And I think the Chiefs are in a better position to be able to do that this year, because they're going to be fairly deep at that tight end spot. And especially if they end up keeping 4, if they keep 4 tight ends, and I'm saying that with the possibility that Jared Wiley may start the season on the PUP list, so they could even really take 5 tight ends to the season, knowing that Wiley might be back later. But if they go into the season with Kelce, Noah Gray, with Robert Tonyan, who had a great offseason program. I mean, he was really good during OTAs. Really fit into this offense and handled everything really well. I mean, if that's your 3rd guy and Jake Briningstool rather, kind of, figures everything out, is healthy, puts everything together, and he can be your guy that's either there to learn or, really steps up and can make an impact this year. Be a guy that they need in case there are some injuries or you need to spell Travis a little bit. I think that could be if Jake Briningstool is as good as a lot of us think that he can be, and he's your 4th tight end, that's a really good room. And especially it might be that later in the season, Jake Briningstool, maybe he's going to you have to kind of try and squeeze him onto the practice squad, because if Wiley's ready to come back, it's, to me, that's going to be a really, really good lineup. That's a really good deep room. So I do think that Travis would benefit, because once again, I think that he just hit a wall late in the season, and the Super Bowl in particular. I think a lot of that team hit the wall. But again, I think they hit the wall in part because they had to stress a lot to win some games last year, and they had to stress a lot on offense just to get what they were done, because, like I said, I mean, Patrick needed Travis out there much more than the Chiefs wanted to use Travis. So you lop off 150 odd snaps, maybe a little bit more from Travis's workload, I think he would be a more productive player. Not only just more efficient and more productive per snap, but I think more importantly, more productive and more efficient late in the season and into the playoffs. That's what I think you're really managing. With this team in particular, you're managing and should be managing Travis Kelce so that he can play his best snaps and be his most effective in the postseason and into January and February. We need a Q&A bingo card with all the phrases when the pads come on, how the sausage is made. Yeah, Chris, we do. I mean, and I, you know what? I'm probably really bad at this sometimes. I have a couple of my little phrases that I lean on, and I probably have some filler phrases that people would prefer to me to get rid of. Hey, if you got critique me, I've had people, I've had people before mention, I was like, Matt, I can't, you drive me crazy when you say this. And so, I mean, no offense here. So you can let me know if there's anything I do that drives you crazy, but we've got some decent phrases, Chris. So I appreciate that. Peace Whizzle, just subscribe. Thank you very much. Who would be on your Chiefs player Mount Rushmore? So Peace Whizzle, you're talking about all time, just now, and in current era or anything like that. If it's all time, I mean, man, I try to find a way that, I mean, there's so many. I mean, that's what's really, really hard, because I would have a really, really hard time not putting both Patrick and Lenny the Cool on there. I mean, those two guys, I think, are just too identifiable as part of this franchise. So I think that would have to be two of your four right there. Gosh, and then, I mean, I don't know how I can leave off Travis. I mean, of all the Hall of Fame great players that the Chiefs have had over the decades, I think the really hard decision for me would be that, I mean, I think you have to put, I mean, if it's Travis over Tony Gonzalez, I think I got to go with Travis, because at this point in particular, especially if Travis ends his career with the Chiefs, then I think you just have to go and give that a little bit more of a nod towards Travis. And then fourth spot, I mean, I feel like a lot of times Derrick Thomas ends up on this list, and I think it probably is a little bit recency bias. So many of us grew up watching Derrick, and obviously the tragedy of Derrick Thomas. Not that Derrick Thomas doesn't belong on there. I mean, he absolutely does. But I just think like Bobby Bell, I think would probably be my fourth guy, because tell you what, that dude has been just Chiefs in Kansas City for 60 plus years. I mean, it's just, I don't remember. I mean, I don't, there's not a time in my life when Bobby Bell hasn't been, a part of the Chiefs and hasn't been a face of this organization. So I know, hey, younger fans don't know as much about Bobby and everything. I never got to watch him play. He was, before my time, but hearing the stories about Bobby Bell, getting the chance to meet him over the years, hear his stories, and obviously Hall of Famer deserved. If they counted sacks back then, Bobby Bell's numbers would be crazy, and especially the numbers that he would have in the number of games. I mean, I think I saw someone who had gone through and tried to do an estimate about this. I want to say I thought Bobby Bell was like in the 80s, and you got to remember he was doing that in a 14-game season too. So, yeah, I think I'd have to go with Bobby Bell. Now, if you're talking about like the current era Peace Whizzle, that's another. I mean, that obviously if you're just talking like maybe the last decade. Or even the last 25 years, if you limited it to that, then you still have a little bit of a conversation between Travis and T-Gon, but I probably would still put Travis on there. Yeah, I mean, Derrick Thomas that's the thing. I mean, it's just that he was an incredible player, and I mean, to me, it comes down between him and Bobby Bell. I mean, that would be that last spot. And if you decide to leave Lynn Dawson off and put both of them on there, I wouldn't have any problems with that. It's just there's a lot of really, really good, Chiefs players over the decades. It's a hard one. It makes it hard, and it's a tough call. So good question. That's a fun one though. Let's see, especially just coming off the topic that Nick and I were talking about over the weekend with on 41 is the mic, talking about how this Chiefs team has been kind of put together, and the influence of John Dorsey and Brett Veach, and it's John Dorsey still has an impact on this roster. What players that he acquired? I mean, obviously players. Travis Kelce still on his roster, and he was a draft pick from John Dorsey's first class. And when you think about the Tyreek Hill trade, there's going to be players on this team that are, in a way connected to John Dorsey into the 2030s. Because, I think Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis big possibility of, being second contract players with this team, maybe even third contract players with this team. And you wouldn't have been in the position to get either one of those guys without the Tyreek Hill trade. So that to me is just, John Dorsey, it's probably a mixed legacy in Kansas City, but it was really interesting to just go back and take a look. And if you haven't listened to 41 is the mic, okay, it was a long one, so maybe you have to bump it up on a little faster speed to get through it. Maybe break it into chunks. But Nick and I had a lot of fun going through the last, 13 seasons and kind of breaking everything down. It was a lot of fun. And I think it just reminds you that, hey, there were a lot of pivotal moments in the early years that laid the foundation for where the Chiefs are today. Jedi, you hearing if Simmons is going to open camp at left tackle 1? It's a good question. I mean, the indication I've gotten is that the Chiefs will probably open camp where they ended the mandatory mini camp. And that gets a little tricky because Jalen Moore wasn't taking part in any of the full team activities. But when he was on the field, Jalen Moore was left tackle 1. Now, he wasn't out there with a defense. So, and that could change. But I think there's a pretty good possibility that the Chiefs will start training camp with Jalen Moore as the first man up at left tackle and Simmons rotating in there. I wouldn't be surprised, too, if because Jawan Taylor is coming off that knee, repair over the summer, over the off season, rather. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs did a little bit of a rotation where maybe Jalen Moore starts at left tackle, Josh Simmons rotates in behind him, Jalen Moore kicks over to right tackle and maybe spells Jawan Taylor a little bit. Maybe Simmons and Jalen Moore get a few even team 2 reps just to get them some different work. I just would not be surprised if Jalen Moore ends up, getting some work at both left tackle and right tackle to get him ready for the season to be potential swing tackle. Because if Josh Simmons does end up getting the left tackle job, then you want Jalen Moore ready to play both of those positions. You will not see Josh Simmons playing right tackle. The Chiefs' plan for him is left tackle, period. So they're not going to mess around with, multitasking, the more you can do. No, they want Josh Simmons to be left tackle exclusively. So he won't do any rotation. I really wouldn't expect Jawan Taylor to do any rotation. I think they're just going to plan on him being the right tackle, period, this year. If they need anything at left tackle, that's where Jalen Moore's going to come in. Wanya Morris is probably your third man up at this point at that spot. They obviously could move Jawan over there if they needed to in a pinch. They haven't done it before, so they could have done it last year. So it decided not to. But I think there's going to be there's a lot of reasons why I would do that, Jedi. And part of it is that if you're the Chiefs and not wanting to repeat what you did last year, when you basically handed the left tackle job pretty early on to Kingsley Suamataia. And the Chiefs, they're always a firm believer. Andy Reid's always a firm believer. Andy Heck has been a firm believer in making players earn their jobs. So I think it would be in their best interest to make Josh Simmons earn the job, not just hand it to him at the beginning of training camp. And I really get the feeling that if they felt like that was the situation that they were in, that Josh Simmons had truly at this point won the left tackle job, I think, Jalen Moore might not have done anything during the mandatory minicamp. But the fact that he was out there, he was taking left tackle 1 work when he was on the field. And, granted, wasn't out there with the defense, but that's my expectation. Now, how long will that last? And like I said, how much will they rotate? I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 50-50 rotation, but I would expect that. And that's why I would say, don't be surprised either way. Don't be surprised if Simmons is the first one up at left tackle and Moore comes in behind him and is rotating. Don't be surprised if Jalen Moore is left tackle 1 and Simmons is rotating in behind him with the first team. I would not be surprised. Nothing would stun me. And because if everything, you still want to see Josh Simmons get to, when the pads come on, being his first test. And that's why I wouldn't, if I was the Chiefs, and especially after the experience last year, I wouldn't have Josh Simmons taking first, number one left tackle reps until after the pads come on. So that first padded practice will be July 27th, most likely. Looks like how it's scheduled. So I wouldn't be surprised until it was at least late July or August 1st before you would start thinking about, and maybe even after the first preseason game, before you get Josh Simmons in there at left tackle. Just give him the time that he needs to get up and ramp up and get comfortable. But most importantly, just fight and win that job, and not just have it handed to him, but earn that job. I mean, that's how you get the best out of football players. Is you got to have that competition. Alex, why won't Tamba Hali ever make the Hall of Fame? I know his numbers aren't crazy, but his energy was just remarkable. And yeah, I mean, you kind of hit on it, Alex. I mean, Tamba, he's one of those players that has, I think, a tremendous amount of local popularity, but he just never kind of broke through with the national popularity. And some of it was that Tamba had the misfortune to have his best seasons on some really terrible teams. He just, some of those early defenses now. I mean, Tamba had some decent numbers as far as, Pro Bowls. Let me pull it up here and we'll look at his overall numbers. And, but you kind of hit on it there. I mean, it's his sacks numbers as far as compared to his contemporaries, 89.5. I mean, it's a good number. It's just not as much as other guys have been putting up these days. And Justin Houston's going to be in that same conversation. I mean, and Justin Houston has the legitimate argument, as far as having an incredible, sack season. Tamba's, best was 14.5. Let's see what he had: 5 Pro Bowls, a couple of second team All Pros. I mean, it's a good resume. It's not, guaranteed Hall of Fame resume. I think he made a couple of Pro Football Focus, my first team, PFF team too. Those don't get, and when it comes to Hall of Fame considerations, too much of acknowledgement. But I think, I mean, I think you hit on it. One is just that it's the longevity a little bit. I mean, he definitely trailed off. He had 11 sacks at age 30, and then never really had another strong year after that. Only 3 double-digit sack seasons. He was a consistent performer, and you're right. I mean, the energy that Tamba played with, he was obviously a fan favorite in Kansas City for a reason. He's just, his popularity never really expanded outside of Kansas City. Had he played for better teams or played elsewhere, maybe, it resonates a little bit differently. But I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, if I was on the committee, there'd be other players in front of Tamba, for that honor. So I love Tamba. I thought he kind of had an estranged couple of years there at the end of his career, and then after he left, but he's been back around the team the last few years. And when we got to talk to him last year, when he was going into the Hall of Fame, the team Hall of Fame and Ring of Honor, he was kind of old Tamba again. And I've told the story before. It was my first year on the beat. I guess it was my second year. I take it back. It was my second year on the beat. It was when the Chiefs played down in Dallas, and Tamba had just come back from the injury. I think that was his first game back. I had been in the press conference and missed everything that was going on in the locker room. I came back and and for my story, I needed to get a player. And I really wanted to get Tamba, and and everybody had been clearing out. Luckily, Tamba was still in the locker room, and he had already talked to the media and everything. But I just needed a couple of questions with him, and one of the PR guys was like, "Hey, let me ask him, Tamba. We'll talk." And he was like, "Hey, Tamba, can you get a couple of questions for Matt?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And so, I mean, it was no big deal to him, but it meant a lot to me, and that. I never had any problems with Tamba. I know it was a little cranky at times, including with our friend Adam, who's retiring. But I think they're in a pretty good place now, I hope. And so I don't think there's anything as far as like the end of Tamba's career. I don't think anything that's going to play into whether or not he gets into the Hall of Fame. I think it's just the numbers. And there's contemporaries of his that have better numbers. So let's see. Oh, Alex, do you remember the days of Tony Moeaki and the hype we felt for him before he got hurt? Yes, I do remember the Tony Moeaki days. I did not. That was before my time on the beat. It was just me watching the Chiefs. But yes, I remember the Tony Moeaki, and and I was pretty worried there. When Travis had the microfracture in his rookie year, it was like, is this going to be Tony Moeaki part two? Obviously, that did not end up the way that things turned out, but there's a lot of players that are like that, Alex, that it's just one injury and they're just never the same again. And Tony Moeaki was one of those. He was a really good college player, and he was from Iowa, right? I think so. I think that's my recollection. He was a really good player. Just too bad one injury can be sometimes all that it takes. And kind of fitting into this Roosters, the next question, all this hype for Jake is exciting, but is he really going to make the team? I think he's well positioned to. And now part of it, Rooster, is like I said, I mean, it's, can you keep 4 tight ends? Will Robert Tonyan continue to look like he has looked in OTAs when they get into camp? I mean, we've seen that before too, that, with veterans, sometimes, hey, off-season workouts or early in camp is great, but then you hit that wall and you just don't have anything left in the tank. Breeding still, I mean, there are things that he's obviously got to work on. But I think he's well built for this league. He's got a lot of good athleticism. He's got the great size. He's got a good skill set. But there are reasons that he went undrafted, and the Chiefs are, trying to walk their way through that now and see if those were legitimate reasons, or, was this really truly a diamond in the rough that slipped through the cracks? That's what you're trying to look for here, what you're trying to find out. And you're trying to see if he can take the coaching, if he can get better. I think he is one of, I think maybe 2 or 3 of the undrafted free agents that've got the best chance to make this team. And, he's definitely in that upper class. But it's going to depend on a lot of factors. And like I said, it's going to be how many tight ends does this team keep? How healthy is Jared Wiley? When will he be ready to return? When will he be able to get onto the field and play? How does Robert Tonyan keep this up? Hey, if Jake Briningstool wins the number 3 job because Wiley is injured and Tonyan kind of flames out, I could see that happening. He makes this team. I could also see that the Chiefs are like, hey, you know what? 4 tight ends is not going to be a problem. Maybe they feel like they need 4 tight ends because they use a lot of tight end packages. And if you want to use Travis Less, the thing about using Travis Less is that the Chiefs have kind of shown in the offense, you need a player like Travis. And now I'm not, and I know it sounds crazy when I say it, and I'm not even talking about a skill of Travis, because you don't have that, but you need someone that's a big target, because Patrick likes big targets. That's what he looks for. And he trusts guys who are bigger, especially, that's one of the reasons why he trusts Travis so much, is that Travis is, the bigger option lined up against almost anybody that he's up against. Patrick likes that. And, Noah Gray, nice tight end. I've got no notes on Noah Gray. For the type of tight end he is, one of the best. It's just that he's undersized. He's about 6'3". Briningstool's 6'6". I mean, those 3 inches and those arms are a difference. There's things that those guys can do that other players can't. And no, I mean, Jake Briningstool at this point in his career is not on the same talent level as Travis Kelce and what he can do. But when you're just talking about throwing the ball to a big target, there's things that Jake Briningstool can do that Noah Gray can't. Maybe Robert Tonyan can do them. We'll see. And that may be where, it comes down to. And, if Jared Wiley is healthy, maybe he can do some of those things. But I think that right now, Briningstool, one of the things he's got going for him is just that his size is different. And he has really good ball skills. So if he can parlay that and maintain that and maintain consistency, And I like his chances. Like I said, I mean, I think he's got, one of the top 3 chances of any of the undrafted free agents to make this team. There you go, Casey Harold. Carve more space on. Give me 5 spots on Mount Rushmore, and that makes it a whole lot easier for the Chiefs. And yep, a lot of votes there for DT to be on Mount Rushmore. Like I said, no problems there whatsoever. Ooh, Alex, who is your greatest Chiefs wide receiver all time? Ooh, wow, that might be a toughie. Pulling up the franchise encyclopedia, so I don't miss anybody here. I mean, you're probably going to have to go with Tyreek. I mean, and if you go most yards, I mean, Dwayne Bowe has more yards than Tyreek. Tyreek was a better wide receiver than Dwayne Bowe. I'm sorry, Dwayne. But it's true. Tyreek was a better. Now, I mean, Dwayne Bowe with Patrick, that'd be interesting. But Dwayne made most of what he had, so I give him credit. Otis Taylor, I mean, if you've ever watched any videos, once again, I mean, before my time, so I never got to see Otis Taylor play, but the numbers that he put up and what, the highlights of what he did at the era in which he played, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I know the AFL was a little bit of a wide open league, but like I said, I mean, you consider the fact that 2 fewer games and didn't have the specialization that they have these days. I mean, Otis Taylor putting up 7,300 yards and has the most receiving yards of any wide receiver in franchise history. But the first wide receiver I'm old enough to remember was Henry Marshall. Henry Marshall was pretty awesome too. I loved Carlos Carson and Stephon Page because both those guys. I was coming of age in the '80s, so those are the Chiefs teams that I watched growing up. So I loved Carlos Carson and Stephon Page. They were not quite Henry Marshall, I mean, you could probably say Carlos Carson and could give him a run for his money. Maybe Stephon too. I mean, they were both good players. I would, of those 3, I would still take Henry Marshall. I just thought he was special. But Otis Taylor or Tyreek Hill, I think, is what your decision comes down to. I gotta go with Otis Taylor. I mean, sorry, Tyreek, but I think I'd go with Otis Taylor. You and like I said, if you haven't seen Otis Taylor highlights, go watch him, and you will come back and say, yeah, that I think you're going to say, yeah, him. Tyreek is special. There's no doubt about it. And obviously, if Tyreek had played all the years if he'd played 10 years in Kansas City, he'd have the most receiving yards of any Chiefs wide receiver. So maybe I should go ahead and give it to Tyreek, but Otis Taylor was the man. So I don't know. I think I'm going to have to go Otis Taylor there. And yeah, lateral Dwayne Bowe. I mean, and I don't even think it's a joke. I mean, Dwayne Bowe's got to be in the conversation. So Dante Hall as a return specialist, Dante Hall was probably the best in franchise history. So Casey Harold, what was the story behind Dorsey leaving? And I mean, and this was back when I was very new to the beat. So, I mean, my first year was 16. So I literally had only been on the beat for a year, just 11 months, I guess, when Dorsey got let go. So Nick could probably give you a better answer to that. But here's the thing is that no one has really ever gone on the record to tell us their feeling or their knowledge of why Dorsey was let go, at least his contract not renewed. I mean, if you take Clark Hunt at his word and you don't parse the statement, I mean, the man literally said that when he looked into the organization, he just found that things were not being done in the way that he would have expected them to be done. And that can be taken in a lot of different ways. And obviously there's a lot of conjecture about the fact and the timing of the moves with Jeremy Maclin, less so with Raheem Nunez Roaches, but there were some other players. There was some other turnover there. There are people who will tell you that there was a battle as far as control of the organization between Dorsey and Reed a little bit, about who was going to have final control of the roster. Um, I can't speak to any of that being directly because I haven't had either one of those individuals tell me, their takes on it. I mean, and there's really, I think, only two people who really know the story behind it. I think it's Clark Hunt and Andy Reid. Well, three, probably Mark Donovan is in there too. But I mean, none of those three have told the real story. So without anybody telling me what the real story was, I feel a little uncomfortable as far as speculating because I don't think that's fair to Dorsey. I don't think it's fair to the organization. Um, you know, there can be a lot of theories, and I've heard a lot of good theories, and I've heard a lot of good reasons for why it may have happened. I've heard some bad, theories as far as why maybe it happened. I mean, there's a couple out there, but I mean, I think if you take Clark Hunt at his word that it was just that the organization was making decisions in a way and doing things in a way that he just didn't want it to be done. Um, you can probably maybe draw your own conclusions and connect the dots a little bit. I mean, and the way that the Jeremy Maclin obviously departure was handled is probably a pretty good example of that. Now there'll be some people who will tell you that Chiefs probably there was time to move on from Jeremy Maclin, but maybe just wasn't handled well, and maybe that wasn't the instant the moment at all. I mean, maybe there were other things that we simply don't know about from behind the scenes. So I hope Casey Harold maybe one day we'll find the real story. I don't think that anyone has ever gone on the record with what the real true story was. I think we just have some pretty good guesses. Alex, did you ever get to ask Andy Studebaker a question? I'm not sure why I love a lot of these forgotten players that may not have been amazing players. Studebaker, before my time on the beat, but Andy Studebaker now is an NFLPA player rep that comes out and will go out to teams and meet with them and kind of just check in with them, be a kind of liaison between the NFLPA and locker rooms and the players in the league. So he'll drop in. He still lives, I believe, in Kansas City. So he was in the locker room late in the season last year. He kind of came in and Studebaker is still in great shape. I mean, he's looks a little bit lighter than when he played, but you can tell he still works out. He is trim. He looks like Andy Studebaker. Like I said, not quite as bulky as he used to be, but he's still in great shape and just seems like a really good dude. I mean, I watched Andy Studebaker play. I did not get to cover a locker room. I think Studebaker was gone before I got onto the beat. So I don't remember if he was in the locker room. I don't remember covering him, but I don't think he was. But I have seen him over the years when he's come in to stop in, and like I said, he goes and visits other teams too. He's good kind of liaison. I mean, obviously he spent a lot of time in the league, so he understands what players go through. He's a smart, sharp guy. So I think he's a really good guy to have in a spot like that. And it's good that there's players like that available that can kind of help out the NFLPA, help out the players of today. Studebaker's a good guy. So I've heard nothing but good stories. And once again, Teicher, I'll probably tell an Adam Teicher stories for the rest of my natural life, but I know Adam always spoke very highly of Studebaker, especially when he would come in to visit the team and just remind us that hey, Studebaker was one of the good guys. So Mike Maslowski, another one of those. I mean, Maz was definitely one of those players that you love to root for. And again, I mean, I believe I've met Maslowski once or twice. Again, well before my time on the beat, because I think his last year would have been let me pull it up here. 2003. Yeah, so a little bit before my time, but I enjoyed watching him play. Boomer Grigsby. There you go. Another one of that kind of ilk, although I'd put Studebaker and then Maslowski in a completely different category. But yep, those were the good old days. Mark, and from Twitter, I love getting the comment from Twitter. Are you guys comfortable, Matt and Nick, if Noah Gray is the heir apparent to Travis Kelce, short or long term? Great timing, because Nick is going to be in here in a moment, and we can bounce that question off of his impressive noggin. But, I mean, like I was alluding to earlier, and I'll always say, Mark, they're different receivers, they're different tight ends. So that's why, I just think it's a lot to expect from a Noah Gray, who's an undersized tight end. You look at the numbers. I mean, Noah at this point is actually putting up remarkably good numbers for a 6'3" or shorter tight end. I mean, you think about 6'3" guys. I mean, Evan Ingram is like the Hall of Fame type. If you're ever going to have a Hall of Fame for a 6'3" tight end, he's the guy. There's just it's remarkable how much that 1 inch makes a difference. The difference between a 6'3" guy and a 6'4", much less 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". It's just amazing to me that you almost have to be a 6'4" tight end to ever be 1,000. I'd have to go back and look at the last when I looked at this when no, I think was a rookie. I don't believe there had ever been a 6'3" and under tight end with 1,000-yard season. I need to go back and recheck that and look it up again and see if anybody has done that since. I don't think that anyone has, though. I could be wrong. But it's just, and I mean, obviously they're few and far between. I think obviously a 6'3" guy could be that, could be as good as that, but it's just whether or not they get the opportunities, whether they just not fit in. It's hard to say, but I mean, Noah Gray's not, to me, the Travis Kelce heir apparent. Noah Gray can be a good tight end. Is he going to be a 1,000-yard guy? No. Can he be a 500 or 600-yard guy as your number one tight end? Probably. I think he could do that. I mean, he should have a few, a couple more good years in him. I mean, he's still a young guy, but he's entering his prime of what he should be right now. I think you started to see that last year. He kind of stepping into his prime a little bit. But I just, and it goes back once again to, what can they be in this system? There have been a couple of opportunities Noah Gray's had to be the primary tight end in a game, and or with Kelce out, and I mean it's a small number of opportunities, but he hasn't put up the numbers as of yet. And I like I said, I think part of that is just a little bit of the skill difference. I mean, Travis Kelce, Noah Gray are two different guys, but just being different tight end too, and what Patrick's preferences are as far as, looking for matchups where he's got a guy that has a significant size difference against the player that he's going up against. I mean, if Patrick ever has a choice between Travis and anybody else, he's going to throw the ball to Travis most of the time. I mean, we know that's just the way that it works. So it would be interesting to see what would happen and will happen if and when Noah Gray gets consistent play without Travis Kelce around. But it would also be, to me, kind of what will happen and what it will look like if there's another bigger tight end around with Noah Gray that's in, a lot of two sets. Is it going to be if he's out there with Jake Briningstool, is Jake Briningstool going to get the ball, 3 years from now? Maybe so.
Well, hello.
And speaking of Nick,
me.
How are you this evening?
I'm all right, man. How about yourself?
I am dandy. I have a series of questions for you.
I can only answer 3.
Which you've answered one already, which is how are you doing? Excellent.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Yes, I said that I was going to ask you because Mark was asking both of us here, and I said I was going to bounce this off your noggin.
Please don't do that. Just ask me gently, please. No need for violence here, Matt.
Softly bounce.
A minute in, you're already trying to commit violence, Matt.
What do you think about the future of Noah Gray? Is he the heir apparent to Travis Kelce for the short or the long term?
I'm gonna say this very bluntly. If they believed he was the heir apparent, they wouldn't keep adding tight ends at the position. And I know that sounds weird to say, but I'm saying Jared, you don't invest in Jared Wiley. You would get other UDFAs, or you would get maybe late round pace, but you invested a fourth in Wiley. I mean, I guarantee if Bowers was there, they would have taken him. And well, I know they would have taken him. And then, you invested a significant amount in the signing bonus and Jake Brainstool. So I mean, they're still trying to find who their next Travis Kelce is going to be. Doesn't mean that they don't like Noah Gray. Doesn't mean he doesn't have a role on the offense. Doesn't mean he can't be effective in the offense. But I think they were always going to continually try to find somebody who could truly athletically replace what Travis Kelce brought to the table in his prime.
Yeah, that's how I come down too. I mean, it's just that they're two different types of tight ends, and the Chiefs are continually trying to find a bigger tight end that fits more with what Travis is. And Noah's a nice tight end. I mean, especially for the type of tight end he is, he's really good. It's just that he's not your, stereotypical big receiving tight end. He's just he's a little bit of an undersized mismatch kind of tight end. My other question for you, that was just my own question for you, is there a Hi-Vee find this week?
How many do we want tonight? I'm going to let the comment section decide how many they want tonight.
Doesn't the comment section want them all? I mean, that would be my answer. I mean, if you have 40, Matt, we could probably space them out.
On right, whoa, Matt. Breaking news. He is on right now in the comment section. Is it Pano or Pano? We've been scolded about it, Pano. We need you to tell us in the comment section.
Pono is also a thrown out there.
Well, we're going to let him. It's going to be a you choose moment. How does he want us to pronounce his name?
There you go.
So, a comment section so far says, bring him, Casey Harold. That does not tell me how many. I shot a lot of them for multiple weeks because, I mean, there's only going to be so much new stuff at Hi-Vee on a regular basis. Which, by the way, Matt, I may have got some of that ice cream soup we talked about last week. There was a bunch left, so I totally got it. That's how you celebrate America, with some eggnog in July. Freedom isn't free, folks. All right, Casey Harold said 5. We're not. We'll see if anybody else says less. We'll do less. Dude, Pano's out here like just killing me, man. He's just like, I'm suffering in silence right now because he won't tell me how we pronounce his name, and I feel bad each time. I get so hesitant. I'm gun shy because of the person in the comment section that was very furious about it a couple weeks ago.
I know, and I mean, Pono, I did not. I hope we didn't miss your questions at all because I thought we had been answering your questions.
No. I think he's messing with us because he likes to make a lot of. I think he likes to make a lot of statements.
Well, Jedi says 2 per pod for the Hi-Vee finds.
All right, I know which one I'm gonna do. Let's see.
There you go. It's Pono, Nick. Pono.
Oh no.
That's probably my fault because I think I've been saying Pono most of the time. So Pono.
Yeah, dude.
Pono is how you would say Pono with a Ozark accent. So my apologies, Pono. I'll try to remember this.
Let's see.
As always, I blame myself.
All right, Matt. I am going to throw these in right now since we're doing 2 per pod in honor of Jedi.
If and when we reach the day where I have the creative spirit and talent to raise the production values of the Chiefs Digest conversations, we'll have some graphics and music for this. So,
oh, don't worry, Matt. We'll take care of it. All right, on a new edition of Hi-Vee Finds, we start out with number 1, Matt.
Which one you want to go with?
It's in order, bud. It's in
All
order.
right.
The first one is in the syrup section today. IHOP that may or may not be going bankrupt, especially in the Northland area right now, because the one in Liberty disappeared, and we did a story this past week on KSHB 41 about some people not receiving their payments at that IHOP. So don't know what's going on there, but on top of the IHOP syrup you can now get at Hi-Vee, there's also a Dolly Parton syrup. So not only does she work 9 to 5, she also works on your pancakes if you want to eat those with the new syrup that she's got.
That's a very creative bottle.
Yeah, dude. It's shaped like a guitar. Yeah. And I mean, I was hoping it would be called 9 to 5 syrup, but she just chose Dolly Parton's original syrup.
I mean, having a Hi-Vee, an IHOP branded syrup is
Yeah.
smart. I mean, I would go. I mean, I'll admit. I mean, I'm a Hungry Jack guy, so that's where I go. But I would take IHOP over Log Cabin, and I would take IHOP. No offense, I would take IHOP over Dolly, but
working 9 to 5.
I'm also very intrigued
use
about
the syrup.
those Pop-Tarts pastry bites. I know I've seen them around, but that looks like a different one than.
Yeah, that's the cinnamon roll brand. They got a handful of them. You see them at Quick Trip whenever you're over by the coffee section. They have them over there. Not that I'm aware. It's also over by the lottery ticket vending machine.
Very intriguing with the IHOP syrup, though.
So that is our first Hi-Vee find of the day. Our second Hi-Vee find of the day is a special one. It is apparently Pilgrim's stuffed chicken nuggets. This one had the chicken pot pie loaded nuggets in there. How about that, Matt? You not only could you have chicken nuggets, but they got pot pie loaded inside of them. And they're made by Pilgrims, apparently. So, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, if this were like
Pepe, Dolly Parton syrup is missing nothing. But I am curious, what are the two things you think it's missing?
I mean, I could possibly get behind the chicken pot pie loaded nugget if it were more of I'm picturing Totino's Pizza Bites. I would picture it more like that. It'd be like to me like a pot pie inside a pizza bite. That would work more for me. But a chicken nugget, this just frightens me. This frightens me. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, Matt. Well, that is this edition of Hi-Vee Finds for the week, Matt. Debuted it here exclusive first, right here. I'm gonna be exclusives. I'm gonna post it on Twitter here in a minute, but you guys got to see it first because you're here for Q&A day.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Nick. I mean, that's what we're here for.
100%, dude.
That is what we're here for,
bro. Do you even Q&A on this day?
Do I Q&A on this day?
Yeah. Do you even Q&A on this day? Do you make stuff out of clay? Maybe go by the bay? What do you say?
All of a sudden, I was starting to have Bobby Bonilla Day references going through my head.
Oh, that wasn't part of Adam Sandler's reference. Sorry.
No, now I'm catching on. Also clarifying how to pronounce names of our devoted fans and followers, W and MB. So now we know that.
That sounds like a very official firm, or maybe like an alternate to WebMD.
I mean, I was thinking. I mean, I definitely get what you're going there. I mean, to me, it also sounds a little bit like a weapon of mass destruction of some sort, like a big bomb. But
wow, dude, you really know how to turn things upside down around here. Matt turns things upside down really quick.
There you go. Sometimes I just need to
even
keep
Bart Simpson is surprised in the background.
Sometimes I just need to keep my inside thoughts to myself. There you go. What are the
Nikki said she worked at Hi-Vee. Okay. She was a helpful smile in a lot, in whatever aisle she worked in.
There you go. There you
Nikki,
go.
what department did you work in? What aisle were you a helpful smile? Let us know.
And yeah, what's your? I was seeing Pepe saying that I'm over on RGR right now on my twin because I recorded that earlier today with Ryan. So
I don't know what you're talking
I'm
about.
competing against myself right now, Nick.
Yeah, it's par for the course there.
If you want to see it live, stay here because that is recorded. So no offense.
If you want live, Matt, this is the spot.
You want live, Matt. What are the leading O-line off-season training people organizations where young players can hone their skills? Are any of our boys attending any of the top-notch centers? I mean, we know the big one, Nick.
Nikki said every aisle, Matt.
Well,
she worked there for 18 years, and she was a helpful smile in every aisle.
I believe that.
Even that one aisle where they had pet treats, she was a helpful smile there too.
I have been in every aisle of Hi-Vee. So
even where they have the alcoholic section.
Yes.
Okay.
Even where they have the like motor oil and
school
supplies.
That's right. Yeah.
That is the craziest aisle in Hi-Vee.
No, I don't. I think it's a little bit more different now than it was before. But anyway, sorry.
While we're just on this though, I mean, I'm just because this came up in the conversation because apparently the Liberty Aldi's also redesigned its aisles recently and rearranged the entire store. And Hi-Vee had been doing that where it seemed like every time you went in there was things in a different place. I swear the crackers seem to be in a different aisle every time I go to Hi-Vee and Liberty.
They moved the cookies from last week. I was there because I took photos. I went up.
The cookies are in the cracker aisle. Exactly.
No, guys, I went down almost every aisle just to find unique things for you. That's how much I care. It's also I was a little late. I went down aisles I wasn't even shopping in, and that was less efficient than normal.
Nikki worked at least one day in every department except meat and bakery.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. I've been in every aisle in the bakery too.
That's right. Okay, so I do need to answer this question. That's my fault. W and MB.
Yes. I know which center and which place you're going to be talking about.
What are your leading O-line people training? Well, have I got a place for you? It's called Duke Mayweather. Very talented individual. I think O-line masterminds. I can't remember when, but I know it's coming up here pretty soon. And there will be some guys there at that. Duke does a phenomenal job with that. I hope someday Mitchell Schwartz starts his own academy. I hoop he just calls it the Mitchell Schwartz Academy. And maybe does it like Derrick Zoolander. learn how to kick step and block and do other good things too. Just like Derrick Zoolander's, a little facility. Learn how to read and do other good stuff too. But now, Duke's kind of he's kind of become the standard of where it seems like a lot of offensive linemen invest their time in and continually get better.
I was trying to remember the name of the finishing school in Cabin Boy, because that would be great for like Mitch Schwartz's school for offensive linemen and fancy boys.
I don't know what's going on with Brian today, but like Brian's not in a good place.
We'll deal with Brian's questions a little bit later.
He's not in a good place today. Didn't know it'd be in the comment section talking about parakeets.
Yeah, we'll have a talk, Brian. It's all good. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, you're still part of the family. I'm just worried about you, dude. I mean, so.
Oh my goodness. All right, where are we at? Question wise.
I don't know, but I was
736, Matt.
I was trying to look up when
36.
I was trying to look up when O-line Masterminds was this year, and now I've just learned that they have an O-line Masterminds store. So if you need some T-shirts or jackets or anything like that, we can hook you up.
737. I've got these allergies.
Apparently.
Yeah, I know.
The producer in you is on it today.
Always, Matt.
Steven, which tight end 3 will make the roster? Tunyon or Breeningstool? I kind of talked about this before you got here, Nick, so I'm going to let you run with this one.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, they invested a lot in Jake Breeningstool. So, I mean, like for me, he's kind of the front runner for tight end 3. Robert Tunyon, I mean, we'll see how camp goes. I mean, he's a veteran. He knows what he's doing. It's just a matter of how many can he consistently put those days together, especially a guy who's been in the league as long and at the level that he has. I mean, I'm not saying he can't be on the roster, but I think you have an easier time getting him on the practice squad as a veteran at the ripe age of 31 years old than you do somebody like Jake Breeningstool. But I mean, it depends how they both show up during preseason games, because that's where a lot of teams are going to be able to take inventory of how much the Breeningstool's developed and what Tunyon may have left in the tank.
Yeah, and I mean, based on what Tunyon did during off-season workouts, you've got to be impressed and give him a chance. But like you said, you want to see what a veteran like that is he going to hold up? Is he going to hit a wall once they get into camp? Let's see. Breeningstool could be the same way. I mean, maybe he's going to hit a wall in training camp, and maybe he won't be as impressive as he looked in the periods when before he had a little bit of an injury at the end, but he looked good. I also would not be surprised if the Chiefs kept 4 just because they're going to use the tight ends a lot, Nick. I mean, we know that as always. And right now, I mean, they've got 4 that are likable. So let's see what happens. Jedi, any news on the Rice legal situation? I heard somewhere he had a late June court date. Correct me if you've heard differently, Nick, but I think that date got pushed into July, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. I haven't looked through the Texas court system thing in a couple weeks. I just know there was another civil lawsuit that was filed in late May. So I mean, you guys got to remember, like, there's some pending legal situations in terms of the lawsuits that it's on the civil part, and what a lot of people are kind of wondering about is more what they would call the criminal aspect of court. So I mean, those are two different things, to where in terms of the criminal part of court, his attorney is in the Texas Senate, if I remember correctly, and he had to have things pushed back because his session didn't end till early June. And so, like, I don't think they had definitive time set, to where I think a lot of stuff was going to get pushed back. So I know everybody is very curious about it and its impact, but I just personally, I've already mentally pushed that to 2026. That's just me.
And yes, I did find it. Yes, the because of his lawyer was in the Texas legislative session, it forbid the civil case from being continued until after 30 days after the session was over. There is a court date set for January 20th of 2026 as of right now. So, that would obviously be, I mean, right now it'd be after the season, and whether that would get moved if Rashee Rice could get a continuance, if the Chiefs are in the playoffs, that will be an interesting note. We'll see what happens there, but that at least fits in with the timeline that I've been told, which is that at this point that the Chiefs are not expecting a resolution from the criminal side of things right now, either before the season or during the season. And if that's the case, the NFL is not going to take any action until after the criminal aspect of this case is completed. So now I know I started getting some questions for Nick because, people were like, hey, the Justin Tucker already got his suspension. There are no criminal charges in the Justin Tucker case. Those are all civil cases that he's facing. And the NFL doesn't really, I mean, I don't want to say doesn't care, because that's not exactly the right terminology to use. They do care, but civil matters don't really play into their decision about handing out suspensions. I mean, it's more impactful about the criminal side. So the NFL has a history of handing down suspensions before civil trials are completed. They did this with Deshaun Watson. They're doing it with Justin Tucker. But they're going to wait until the criminal side's complete, because they don't want to end up with a punishment that either is too harsh or too light because of what may come out as part of the criminal process. So I'm still not expecting Rashee Rice to be suspended during this regular season. Now, obviously, with the court date set for January, we'll see what happens. But just don't. I would not expect anything, obviously, to happen in the near term. So. All righty. Alex, are there any favorite moments you had with Derrick Johnson, and what kind of personality did he have?
Feel free to go, Matt.
I think first of all, DJ was a fantastic guy for me to deal with in the locker room. I mean, I don't remember him ever turning down, talking to anybody. He was the designated spokesperson for that defense from the time I got there until his retirement. I mean, he talked every Thursday. He was an accountable guy. I mean, when they didn't play well, he took accountability for it and everything. My favorite Derrick Johnson story was, for me, in my personal interaction with him, was, and now I'm trying to remember, was it was the Raiders running back, was it Rashard that he just absolutely buried in the backfield. I mean, just took that man's soul and just absolutely destroyed him on a tackle. And I asked DJ if he how many times he had to watch that on the clips, how many times that got shown on the defense, because it was just an absolutely perfect tackle, and DJ just absolutely destroyed him. And he just flashed a quick smile, and he's like, "Yeah, I watched it a couple of times." Said, "Yeah, they put it up on the screen." So, I mean, hey, we're not celebrating the violence of football and any injuries or anything of that sort. The man wasn't hurt, just his pride. But yeah, DJ had a good sense of humor too.
There you go.
Nick has nothing to add.
No, I mean, look, he was a great guy. I enjoyed always talking to him and Tamba in the locker room, because I got to talk to them from 2010 until Derrick went to the Raiders and until Tamba got released, and they're both good dudes, good guys, and I mean, Derrick and Tamba both love football, so well.
Question that came up before you got here, Nick. Who is the best receiver in Chiefs history?
That I personally watched would be Tyreek.
Anybody in Chiefs franchise history?
That I personally watched, Tyreek. I feel like a broken record here.
Well, that wasn't the question. The question wasn't one that you watched personally. It was the best in franchise history.
If I didn't watch them, I can't analyze them, Matt. What are we doing here? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
There are stats. There are highlights.
I don't care about stats. Stats are for losers. I want with my own eyes to analyze. So, like I said, for like the millionth time, Tyreek Hill is the best wide receiver I personally got to watch. Never got to watch Otis Taylor, but I'm sure I know he has highlights from the Super Bowl, but I didn't get to watch him in and out every day and get to experience that.
He has as many Super Bowl rings as Tyreek does.
You asked me a question. I answered it 3 times, and I feel like you're trying to force an answer out of me that you're never going to get, Matt. Never, ever, 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 ever are you going to get the answer out of me that you're trying to force.
I wasn't trying to force.
That's the guy who had me answer it 3 different times.
Now, Nikki is also at the correct answer here, which is that if you ever get to have real maple syrup, that is always the first option for everything. So
I'm not sure where I can go get that at.
There are places to get real maple syrup, but
all right.
Probably, maybe Hi-Vee may not have them, or maybe they have them. They might have them in like the high end fancy, organic section.
I was in those aisles earlier today.
Did you see any real maple syrup?
I was not on the prowl for it. No.
Jedi, nice to see that. Yes, you live in the Ozarks. Springfield, Missouri native, Jedi. So let me know where you live. Unless, of course, it's a small enough town that we'll be able to identify you. Pono means good in Hawaiian, Nick. In case you needed to know that, which I feel I appreciate knowing that now. I've learned a lot of things. Did you know, we learned this earlier before you got here as well, Nick? Did you know that Rip from Yellowstone was in Dazed and Confused and Good Will Hunting?
Yeah.
See, I knew you knew that.
Dude, you know how many movies I watch? You want to know the first time I actually paid attention to him as an actor, though?
Fire away.
He was the villain in Too Fast, Too Furious against Paul Walker and Vin Diesel. That was where he started, and then I saw Dazed and Confused a couple years later, and I'm like, oh, hey, it's the villain from Too Fast, Too Furious, and it was him.
Ooh, I don't know if this will probably cause me.
And he's married. His wife. I need to double check if his wife is who I remember it being.
He's married to his wife.
Sorry, no, who his wife is, because I can't remember if she's the twin or if that's the guy that's on NCIS. One moment, please. But continue on. Talk amongst yourselves, Matt.
Sean.
Yeah, Cole Hauser. Yeah, because his mom, he has a family member that was in. Okay, he's the son of Cass Warner. That's it. Who founded a film production company.
Wow, there you go.
Because
Well,
Matt, do you want to know why that name should be familiar to it?
did you say the last name was Warner?
Mm-hmm.
Well, is that like a descendant of Jack Warner?
His maternal great grandfather was the film mogul Harvey M. Warner of Warner
Oh,
Brothers.
okay. Well, I wasn't Jack. Jack Warner. Jack must have been the other Warner then.
I don't know. I don't
I only
know.
know Jack. I only know Jack.
I
Warner.
don't know who this Jack is that you speak of, sir.
Well, I don't know the Warner you mentioned. I
Yeah,
only
okay,
know
that's right.
Jack
Okay,
Warner.
so his wife, Cole Hauser's wife, is Cynthia Daniel. Her sister is Brittany Daniels. They were the twins on Sweet Valley High back in the late 90s. You're laughing, but you brought me
I'm
down. You brought me down Hollywood Trivia Road. That's
I'm
that's a you thing. That's not a me thing.
I'm laughing because I was in my late 20s when that show was on, so I had
Okay.
no business watching that. So I was not
Matt,
aware.
you may have been flipping through channels and you would have seen him, buddy. Okay?
I just knew it existed, but I
just,
never watched it.
yeah, I'm trying to because people will remember her twin Brittany Daniel because Brittany Daniel is in yeah, because she is in.
The name sounds familiar for some
She's
reason.
in Club Dread. She's in White Chicks. She is Brandy and Joe Dirt. Seen Joe Dirt?
I have not seen Joe Dirt. I have not.
Goodness, man, you need to watch it in honor of 4th of July week because they talk about fireworks at one point in the movie. So that
I've seen that. I've seen that clip a million times because it's everywhere.
Yeah, and then Brittany Daniel was in Dawson's Creek for a couple episodes. So I mean, you know, like, dude, yeah, she played Brandy and Joe Dirt, man.
Never saw Joe Dirt. I've never seen a complete episode of Dawson's Creek. I've never seen Sweet Valley High or whatever.
She played Megan in the Wayans Brothers movie.
And at the risk of just losing any and all total cool points here, I'm fairly certain I've never seen a Fast and Furious movie.
Well, you better catch up, buddy. There's like 9 or 10 of them.
I always think that I may have seen one, but then I'm pretty sure that I remember, no, that was the Italian Job.
Were they in little mini Volkswagens?
Yes.
Then that's an Italian Job. Are they in cool muscle cars? Fast and Furious, bro.
There you go.
So I'm just so disappointed in you right now.
I knew I was going to lose a lot of cool points there, but
yeah, dude, way to go, bro.
Hey, right. I'm not going to lie. Just to, appeal to the masses. I am who I am.
Okay, all right there.
Sharon, which team the Chiefs play in the regular season is the biggest unknown, i.e., haven't played in a while, new players you haven't seen, new staff, etc.? Interesting question. I like that, Nick. It's a different one.
I gotta look up the schedule first because man, I'm not up with memorization of the schedule right now. I've been living my life right now.
What? I'm just thinking refreshing my memory about what teams have changed the most.
So Lions, I'm really intrigued to see what they'll be with Aaron Glenn becoming the head coach of the Jets and Ben Johnson becoming the head coach of the Bears. I'm curious to see how different they are, but the Chiefs will have a good idea by the time they pop on the film because they'll have 5 weeks of opponents, potentially 5 weeks of opponents before it. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have I'm not gonna have a different answer because I mean, Chargers, you're gonna have an okay idea. Chargers you'll be predicting a little bit more. Eagles, we'll see what they are. Giants we'll see what they have what they do at quarterback this year. Ravens will already have a good idea. Jaguars will be a little bit different, but I think the Chiefs will lean on how they were attacked by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football last year, and I think they'll have a pretty good idea there. Raiders will be Raiders. I mean, they'll see what Pete Carroll did in Seattle, but I mean they'll have 6 weeks of film at that point. So I don't think there's necessarily a lot of teams that are gonna sneak up on them, but the opponent in the first week is always the toughest because that's when teams throw out their new wrinkles and new stuff.
Yeah, and those first 2 weeks are going to be interesting to me. I mean, obviously, who knows what's going to happen in Brazil and the Chargers and what's going to go on down there. I mean, that's a game that you can almost just throw out the window because I have no idea what's going to happen.
I'm not going to throw out the window. I'm going to watch it.
I'm going to be just really interested to see how much of a Super Bowl hangover the Eagles have. So the Chiefs really need to win that game, and they need to win it convincingly, I think, for their own psyche. But
I think the psyche will be fine either way, but definitely will make Nick Sirianni sad if that's the case.
Well, nobody wants to see a sad Nick Sirianni, do they, Nick?
I mean, some
people
said
that with a straight face.
Some people do.
Kenneth, which D lineman has the most pressure to perform this year? Also, what's the ceiling for a healthy Charles Omenihu?
You going first, Matt, or you want me to go first?
I can go first if you'd like me to.
Go for it. Light that candle.
I mean, I've been saying it because I said it on Sunday Sound Off. I mean, I think that
heard of it. I've heard of that show. I heard it's pretty good.
It is. It's pretty good.
I heard it's great every single week. There's not a week it takes off. It is great at all times.
It does not matter who is on. That show is always aces. So doesn't even. I mean, I mean, I'm on the show on occasion, and it's great when I'm on, but it's just as great when other people are on. Mm-hmm. So that's what's great about it. But as I said then, I will continue to say now, and I will continue to say, this is a like $80 million year for George Karlaftis. I mean, I know that he's got a chance, for the 5th year option, have a big year next year. But if he wants to make $140 million compared to $60 million, he needs to have a breakout season this year because having your breakout season in year 5 is nice, but what's even nicer is having your breakout season in year 4 and then going to get your bag. And either you get the Chiefs to give you the money or you orchestrate a way to get the money from somewhere else. That's the way the business works. And I mean, I'm not wishing, George Karlaftis, to leave Kansas City or anything like that. I'm just saying, I mean, if George Karlaftis wants to make $140 million, he needs 15 sacks this season. And if he does that, he's going to make a big bag of money. And that's the difference between, like I said, about, when he hits free agency one time or another. Breaking out now is the difference between 3 for 60 and 5 for 140. What's the ceiling for a healthy Omenihu? I think what you saw the last time from him in 2023. I mean, if he can get back to that level, I throw out what happened last year completely out the window. I mean, Charles Omenihu should be better than he was during the end of last season.
You wanting to throw everything out the window, man?
There you go. I'm leaning on that phrase. I need to retire that. So 2023 Charles Omenihu, if you get that, I think you're pretty happy.
So what I'll say in terms of defensive line pressure, Felix and DK Uzama has to figure out, he has to showcase who he's going to be, and that the Chiefs should use him on a more regular basis from a snap count perspective. He showed he was better in the run defense last year, but now he's going to be able to add in a much better pass rush combination and a quicker win rate to where he can, if he needs to be able to get back to the quarterback in 2.5 seconds, he can power rush his way back there if he needs to. So that's one of the things on that front. And then, like Matt's talking about with George Karlaftis, like right now, this is what I'm going to say about the reality where George is at based on the tape. George is a guy who, as long as he has Chris Jones and Charles Omenihu on there, he can, and there's ample time in coverage, he can have a big day like he did against the Houston Texans. But like hypothetically, say Chris Jones isn't on the field, Charles Omenihu is not on the field, and the coverage is only holding up for 2.5 seconds. George right now hasn't shown the ability to be the Myles Garrett, to be the Trey Hendrickson, to be the TJ Watt, to be one of those guys that can take over a game. That's the challenge for him this year. And I'm not saying he's not capable of it. He has the opportunity to go out there and prove it this year. But this is a key year for him to go out there and prove that is his value, that he's not just a role player or a supporting pass rusher, that he can potentially be the main guy. Because that's the only way you get paid that level, is if you showcase that you have the opportunity and you can be the main guy. In terms of Charles Omenihu, You hope he's 100% healthy, and if he is, and if he can play 16 games, he could be a very dominant guy if he gets back to form of who he was before the ACL injury in the AFC Championship game. I mean, Charles Omenihu could actually have a real legitimate payday to where he could get himself that $20 to $25 million per year if he has a very dominant year. And in turn, if he has that level of dominant year, that helps George Karlaftis get more one-on-ones. That helps Chris Jones maybe not take on the double teams. And then maybe that helps the Chiefs cornerbacks get a couple more interceptions. So that can all trickle down and create that. So I hope I answered that on all fronts. And if I didn't, then rewind it because I totally did.
I was satisfied with your answer, Nick, so I have no problems whatsoever.
Outstanding. I feel like we learned a lot here.
I was looking up something to see how crazy I am. Yeah, I'm a little crazy.
All right.
The fireworks are going off outside, so
that's me. That's my bad.
We got that going for us, which is nice. Yeah, Brian
Nikki wants to know where this window is that you're throwing stuff out of.
It's the window outside, which right now fireworks are going off.
Sounds like Nikki's going to go pick some of that stuff up and take it home with her.
Okay, now we're now to the point where we need to have a talk with Brian about how things are going at home. I mean, first of all, Brian, if you have a parakeet, I mean, first of all, don't give it kitty litter. I mean, I don't even care if, I mean, Nikki makes a very, good observation about not making sure it's not the clumping kitty litter, because that would be a problem. Just don't do that. I mean, just don't do that, Brian. So I just want to make sure everything's good at home, and that, you have a clergyman or counselor that you can talk to if necessary. Just, and if you need us, we're here for you, Brian. I mean, Nick will be glad to talk you through some things. Yeah, just no response from Nick. I thought for sure there was going to be a pushback on that one. Malia,
you put me in a terrible situation, Matt, that there's no win.
Malia, what about Ross and Sky? I have a short answer, which is that they got work to do.
I mean, look, they've been given every opportunity to force the Chiefs to not continually draft at the wide receiver position or add at the wide receiver position, and the Chiefs are doing that because they want to continue to make the roster better and to create competition. So those guys got competition this year if they want to be the sixth, and I repeat, the sixth receiver on the roster, or maybe be the seventh wide receiver on the roster, because the top 5 spots are already booked unless an injury occurs, which hopefully doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, top 5. So you're only talking. I think the Chiefs will keep no more than 6 receivers. This is not a year where you need to be keeping 7 or 8 guys, because your top 5 should be fine, and you can stash a couple of guys on the practice squad. I mean, right now, if Sky Moore hit waivers, I don't know that anybody claims him. Maybe they do, and there might be some team out there that thinks that they can, reclaim, Sky and kind of rebuild him a little bit. Some teams have already had a shot at Justin Ross, and nobody took a chance on him. So I don't think you're really talking about anybody that you have a chance of losing. Tyquan Thornton has been available. We'll see. I mean, once again, if anybody goes out and just lights up during the preseason games, that might make a chance that you could lose them. But I like you said, Nick, I mean, the top 5 spots at the wide receiver spot are pretty much 90% taken at this point. The 6th spot, I mean, it's Nico Remigio's to lose, because it's going to go to a return specialist of some sort. So that's not Justin Ross. It could be Sky. Sky's going to get a chance to win that job. But right now, I think he's on the outside looking in. It's Nico's job to lose. So we'll see what happens. Pono. What's the infatuation with Kingsley starting at guard? Nor does that deserve more consideration than Kingsley. Kingsley's was a higher draft pick, but Brett blew that choice. Oh, well.
He still sneaks the statement in there. Pono's getting more savvy about when he throws the statement in there.
He did ask a question leading into the statement, though. So
no, I know. But that's what he's. Yeah, that's
exactly. No, it was this is a high savvy level. Very smooth.
Yes. Like, you could have totally not read it if you wanted to, but you chose to anyways.
I'm a man of the people, Nick. I mean, if the people need to have their voices heard. So
Okay, so if the people text you at 3 a.m. to come help them move, you can do that?
depends on who the people are.
Well, you said you're a man of the people, so it shouldn't matter who the people are there, Matt.
Well, once again, your mileage may vary.
Oh, so Matt just admitted he's not a man of the people when he's backed into the corner.
I don't want to be backed into watching from the corner, Nick. So
I didn't put that part in there.
That's where you were going.
I changed it up for copyright purposes.
Changed it up for copyright purposes.
Matt's like, no, let's get that copyright.
Oh, okay. So, what's the fascination with Kingsley Suamataia, Nick?
I don't know about infatuation or fascination or any of that type of stuff, but they're going to give him the opportunity to start at left guard because I think they love his athletic ability. I think they believe he has high-end athletic ability, and they want to see what he can showcase there. Do they have other options if things don't go well? I do certainly believe they do. I think they have this guy named Jalen Moore that if they need to move into that spot because Josh Simmons does so well, I think they could do that. Hunter Norzad is another individual that if I were in their shoes, I would let him compete as well. And then there's also Mike Caliendo that gets referenced on a regular basis. But those are the two guys that I would put above personally on the Chiefs offensive line that I think would be effective if Kingsley was unable to live up to that role. But we will find out as the arrowhead turns in St. Joe with each and every padded practice.
I mean, what we're seeing with Kingsley is the manifestation of the scouting report on Kingsley, which, I mean, the Chiefs pretty much told us from the moment that they drafted him was, well, we think this guy can be a left tackle, but if not, he can, at least the floor for him is to be a starting guard. So, I mean, there's just no way that, once it did not work out at left tackle, that they weren't going to try him at guard because that was their scouting report, was that if it doesn't work at tackle, he can be guard. So
I think they wrote it more convincingly.
Probably a little bit more convincingly. Yes. So, but yeah, I mean, I obviously, like Nick said, I mean, we need to see what happens in camp, and we need to be looking at this entire offensive line with a more critical eye this year than we were last year. So we'll see what happens. Pepe, how has Fabian Lovett looked this year? I mean, Nick, it's too early for me to really say because you can't learn anything about guys like that for the most part. Dude,
it's too early for anybody to say. It's even too early for his defensive line coach to say, Joe Cullen. Until the pads come on, we will not know in any way, shape, or form. We can have guesses. He's got high-end athletic ability. He had promised last year. I remember asking Joe Cullen at training camp about him, and he was excited about his long-term potential. But until the pads come on, we have no idea, Pepe.
There you go. A whole conversation about a creature that I'm not going to reference, Nick, because I promise not to.
Okay, sounds good. I don't even know what's going on, but let's keep moving.
Alex, I have heard that Rice was in fact not driving but running away from the scene. Was that wrong? I have no idea.
We'll find out whenever the court case happens. Until then, Alex.
And this is exactly why the NFL doesn't act on court cases until they're resolved, because I mean, there could be information that comes out in the Rashee Rice trial that makes him look much worse than he's looked at this point, and it could be making him look much better than he's looked at this point. And the NFL doesn't want to hand out a suspension and then look stupid later because they've been there, done that, and they don't want to do it anymore. So I give Roger Goodell credit for at least learning from his mistakes, that to not jump to conclusions.
Sorry, I'm just going through the comment section with Brian.
Yeah, I'm going to side with Nikki here and say yes, you can, because Brian, we need to have a talk. Once again, Brian, I just want to make sure, is everything okay at home? You haven't answered that yet. I just need to know. Okay. Oh, there you go. Jedi lives in Warsaw. See, I'm ignoring it all, Nick.
That's probably for the best. It's probably for the best.
Although kudos to Brian for faking things nicely with Cairo, and that is a thing you can do. Yes. And Nikki gets her real maple syrup at Walmart. So, see, everywhere.
The more you know.
Oh boy, now Pepe. Now Pepe is getting into it. Not
Alex has got a question at 8:26.
All right, woohoo! Although I'm pretty sure that I could probably watch the latest Fast and the Furious, and I'm guessing that I could probably pick up on things pretty much, and I'm not gonna like miss out on anything because I didn't see the first 12.
Matt, they're all about family. They're family.
Nick, you love movies, so I got one. I was watching Teen Wolf 2, the 80s sequel, and had no idea that was the Ozark's Jason Bateman, the main character in that one. Yes! Mm-hmm. Jason Bateman was a teen idol of the 80s.
Yeah, I'm gonna name off my favorite things that I've seen him in so far, outside of Arrested Development, which he was funny in. Yes. I haven't watched Carry On yet. That Netflix thing. I haven't watched that one yet. I know the movie, a very underrated movie that I find funny, but most people probably won't, is called Love Stinks. With French, I want to say French Stewart in there, and then it's got Bridget Wilson. She is in that too. She that was one of my favorite 90s movies. And then Jason Bateman, hilarious and Necessary Roughness. He was that wide receiver, if I remember correctly. Yeah, no, he's in Teen Wolf 2. And what I also remember him in is he was good in The Sweetest Thing. Yeah, he was good in that movie. And then I don't remember much in Starsky and Hutch, but who doesn't forget him in Dodgeball and Untold Story when he plays Pepper? He's like, bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off. That one's one of my favorites. The Breakup, he's pretty good in with Vince Vaughn. Smoking Aces, he wasn't bad in. The X, okay. Juno's okay. Ooh, The Kingdom. He was good in The Kingdom. Kingdom's a good movie overall. That's one of those Pete Berg movies, man. Pete Berg, that it's just funny. What Pete Berg was the actor that he was, and then he became a director, and he puts himself in his shows just like Taylor Sheridan does, and but more movies than anything. Yeah, he had that minor part in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Then you have Hancock, and then I remember Extract. Oh, Couples Retreat. That one. He was solid in that. He was good in The Switch. Obviously good in Horrible Bosses. The Change Up, not bad. Identity Theft wasn't a good movie. He did his best in that one. This Is Where I Leave You wasn't a bad one. Horrible Bosses 2, it's kind of pretty much the same thing as the original. Office Christmas Party wasn't bad. Game Night was okay. So yeah. No, and he was really good in Air. He was really good in Air too. About the Michael Jordan Michael Jordan Nike shoes.
Now, you're coming at this from a child of the 90s, essentially.
No, I was in the 80s too, but yeah.
But see, I was there I was alive for Little House on the Prairie. So see,
okay.
We had 3 channels, Nick. We had 3 channels. So okay. See, that's how, I end up having to watch Little House on the Prairie. Okay. Silver Spoons, however, was one of my favorite shows of the 80s. It was fantastic. And once again, Erin Gray, one of my favorite actresses of all time. I had a huge crush on Erin Gray, and because of Silver Spoons and Buck Rogers in the 25th century. But Silver Spoons was fantastic, and he was such a weaselly little kid in that show. He was so good at it. Even at that age, he was just great playing a weasel. It's Your Move, which also had Ernie Sabella in it, which as you may or may not know and remember, was the voice of Pumbaa in Lion King. So those were his big ones.
You know what show I was watching today that has nothing to do with Jason Bateman?
What was that?
It was on Heroes and whatever that channel is, and that's exactly the name of the channel. It was called Black Sheep Squadron, originally called Baba Black Sheep, a Black Sheep Squadron. I was watching that today, and I recognized one of the guys when he was young in it, and it was John Lorcutt from Court Night.
Night Court.
Sorry,
yes,
the original Night Court. It's my fault.
Like all the Night Courts, because he was in the reboot as well.
Yeah, that one's going bye-bye in the car.
Yeah, but the '80s Night Court was another one of my favorite shows of the '80s. So, Joe, best sports movie.
Obviously, like Rudy's a great movie. I think that's one that
Rudy.
So, despite Matt not having a heart,
I hate Rudy for one reason and one reason only.
Okay.
Because they treated Coach Devine with disrespect.
How did they treat Coach Devine with disrespect?
Because the jersey scene was garbage. It never happened.
Okay, what's your point?
As Dan Devine said when that movie came out, because he was the athletic director at Mizzou, and I was a student at Mizzou at the time when that movie came out, and Dan Devine said the scene never happened. He said any kid, any player that ever gave him his jersey wasn't getting it back.
You want to know how I know that's a lie?
Because it's true.
You want to know how I know that's a lie?
You can try, but you will fail.
Because Dan Devine would have been able to field a roster for that game because he would have taken all those starters' jerseys.
But it didn't happen. The plan was all along that Rudy was going to play. That didn't happen in real life.
Okay, Matt, hear me out now.
Yes.
You presented in front of me. You presented that Dan Devine stated if players had put their jerseys on there like the movie scene,
yes,
that he would have kept them and they would not have been on the team anymore.
Yes.
So I'm saying in that hypothetical situation to where what happened in the movie is reality, he would not have done that, and he's lying through his teeth because half of those guys were All-American starters. And you think he's really going to do that to his starting offense before they played Georgia Tech?
Yes.
You think Dan Devine's going to just all of a sudden just not have an entire offense and defense when they're putting...
see, that's the problem, is that those players never would have done that because Dan Devine wasn't the kind of coach who wasn't going to play Rudy. He was always going to play Rudy. Everybody knew Rudy was going to play.
Okay, Matt. We're having two different conversations here. I'm telling you, he's lying through his teeth if he's put in that situation. He's talking tough now, but I'm telling you, when he gets backed into a corner, it's going to not go that way. He is not doing that. No matter how much you idolize him, no matter how much you believe what he says is true, if that cat got backed into a corner, he is going to fold like a lawn chair on the 4th of July, Matt.
He would have taken the L. Because
he would not have taken the L.
Sometimes things are more important. Sometimes you gotta teach tough lessons.
He's gonna teach tough lessons his entire starting offense and defense.
Yes.
I think you're full of it, bro. That's what I think.
I mean, this was Notre Dame in the 60s.
Okay.
Their third team could have beaten Georgia Tech.
Okay. Okay.
We never finished what was the best sports movie, though, did we?
Yeah, dude, for me, it's either Any Given Sunday or Varsity Blues. I love both of them, but then I love Bull Durham too. There's a lot of sports movies I like.
I mean,
Field of Dreams. A lot of people are gonna mention too, probably.
I love Field of Dreams. I love Hoosiers. They're not the best sports movie of all time. My best sports movie of all time would probably be either Bull Durham or Major League.
Dude, Tin Cup is really good too.
Tin Cup is really good too. Has anyone seen the golf the show with, is it Owen Wilson?
Stick, yeah. I actually just once I said 10 Cup, I was like, ooh, there's a new episode. I gotta go watch once we're done.
I need to check that one out.
Yeah, it's really good.
I mean, I will say from later on in the conversation here, there's Magnum PI. There's nothing wrong with Magnum PI. So, and we're talking the original, not that reboot nonsense. Most reboot nonsense is nonsense.
Nikki brings up another good one. Remember the Titans. It's another good one. Brian is criticizing you about not watching Joe Dirt.
You know what? Sometimes you just have to take the L, just like Dan Devine said. Sometimes you just got to take the L.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll bring up Dan Devine on the podcast this Sunday. Under lying through their teeth, Hall of Fame. He's on my Mount Rushmore for lying through his teeth.
It's just you hate. Hollywood had to create a villain, and so they made Dan Devine the villain. But Dan Devine was a good dude. He didn't deserve to be a villain.
I bet he made it easy.
Dang.
Just because you liked him from a zoo. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea. I don't know anything about Dan Devine. I just know what he is on Rudy.
And see, Rudy did him dirty. And let's face it. I mean, here's the other thing about the problem with Rudy is that Rudy in real life, we're definitely going to choose Dan Devine because Rudy in real life is a dirtbag.
Rudy.
I would never say this very often, but I'm going to borrow a line from Psych right now. Brian, you need Jesus. So, Pono, why in the world is Ross and Sky still in the conversation? They should have been sent home with their lunch boxes a long time ago. No, you don't need to be that mean to these dudes. And I doubt they have lunch boxes either, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's Pono.
Did I not just say that?
It sounded like you said Pono.
No, I didn't say Pono. I said oh no.
We've really got off the
shrimp po boy.
This really went off the rails about 8:45 or so.
And whose fault is that?
Probably mine.
Dan Devine's.
Oh dear. All right, let's put a bow tie on this one.
We got to make sure everybody's question is answered. Matt.
We are.
We leave no questions behind.
We leave no questions behind. This is your last call. Let's get them in because we're getting close to calling time of death on this one.
I'm also getting close to sending you a link to watch Joe Dirt.
I bet it's probably on Pluto, right? That seems like a kind of thing that would be on Pluto.
What?
Pluto. Or is it on Tubi? I'm talking about the streaming services.
Oh, you're talking about Joe Dirt. Okay, I thought you were talking about Nick Cage movies.
I was bringing up the question, from Alex, why do people hate on Nick Cage? Easily one of the greats. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I'm not a huge Nick Cage fan.
You didn't just see what I did you?
I did see what you did.
You know what movie that's from?
You did the meme.
Trailer.
I don't remember which movie it was from. I mean, it was probably the one where he plays a obnoxious alcoholic jerk.
That's from Gone in 60 Seconds, bro.
So it was the one where he plays a drunk alcoholic jerk.
Which is Nick Cage's best movie? Con Air, Gone in 60 Seconds, or The Rock?
I mean, he did win an Oscar for, wasn't it Leaving Las Vegas?
I'm sorry, it wasn't in contention.
Oh no, I mean, no, it shouldn't be. I mean, no, and he did not deserve the Oscar, but every once in a while, Oscar makes a mistake.
Oh, I forgot he was in Face Off too.
Yes, he was.
I remember Next. I remember that movie with Jessica Biel. And I saw Renfield recently.
I mean, I'm not gonna.
He was Ghost Rider. That's right. And then
Ghost Rider. Yeah,
I'm gonna go through Nicolas Cage movies right now.
I mean, I will say this. I will admit it because I am.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for just sappy movies. So there are terrible, terrible movies that I will watch repeatedly, and one of those terrible movies that I will watch repeatedly are the National Treasure movies. So I'll just admit right now that I shamefully those are the Nick Cage movies I have seen the most. I am not proud of it, but it's a thing that has happened.
I remember Firebirds. I remember that one.
I just remember. I don't know what time it was, but I just know that there was a point in Nick Cage's career where either he ended up several $100 million in debt, or he made like a deal with the devil, because this dude has not turned down a role in like 35 years.
If you do some Google searches, you'll find out some of the stuff he bought that led to him needing to make movies.
Yeah. I mean, this dude has literally not turned down a role.
It Could Happen to You, Trapped in Paradise, Leaving Las Vegas, The Rock, Con Air, Face Off, City of Angels, Snake Eyes. There we go. 8mm, Bringing Out the Dead, Gone in 60 Seconds. Ooh, The Family Man. How can I forget The Family Man? One of his best movies for me was Jack Campbell. He was good in Wind Talkers. Good in that. National Treasure, Lord of War, The Weatherman was actually pretty funny. World Trade Center, he did a good job in. Wicker Man was not a good movie. I had to watch that in film class in college. Ghost Rider, yeah, next. And then, Knowing. I forgot about Bangkok Dangerous and Knowing. Then Bad Lieutenant, that's whenever he started doing movies. Just you had to.
And not even Bad Lieutenant. It was like a direct-to-video sequel to Bad Lieutenant.
Yeah, The Frozen Ground was a creepy movie, but he was in that one.
There's a lot of direct to DVD and direct to VHS films in here.
Yeah, as Randy Moss said, you got to make that straight cash, homie. I remember when he said that too. It was funny. He's because I remember seeing the raw tape. Because for people that don't know, if you're part of an affiliate, they have a news service where you share video with other NBC stations. Or if you bought CNN Pathfire, you could pull, like, stations across the country would share video and CNN would put it up there, and you could take it as long as there wasn't an embargo, which you wouldn't know because the embargo would already be on there. And so that's how I got to see Randy Moss's raw video for when he's with the Minnesota Vikings. And like, so it's zoomed down on him. He's doing the interview and he's talking about how he got fined for his incident in Green Bay where he pretended that he lost control of his pants, and even though he didn't, and faked like he was doing something. And so reporters are asking him about it and everything. He's like, "Nah," he's like, "I paid that in straight cash, homie." And then, so you think, like, it's a normal parking spot and everything and all that stuff. When camera zooms out, he's in the middle of the entrance of the practice facility. He just parks sideways at the front entrance. It wasn't even a parking spot. He just parked right there.
This is not a question, but I feel like I should tell Don, because he was kind enough to say some nice things in this part of the show. I mean, you can go ahead and start from the beginning now, Don, because you're not missing any gold here at the end. So we've completely lost control of the show. So
speak for yourself, bud.
So you can start again. You can start.
Maybe I'm finally living in the Q&A, man.
You get to like 8:42, and then you'll know. Okay, I can check out. Now, I'm fairly certain Nick Cage was not in Dances with Wolves.
Yeah, it's a Kevin Costner movie.
But I do have a Dances with Wolves story, because I saw Dances with Wolves with my friends the weekend that it came out. And so we're sitting there in the theater. I'm sitting next to a guy named Mac Powell. And about halfway through, about 90 minutes into the movie, Mac leans over to me and he goes, "At least this thing's almost over." And I had to say, "Dude, it's only half over." And his head just about exploded. Are you chanting Rudy? Like you're chanting Rudy's name like you're watching him walk out of the prison that he was in for the various frauds and scams that he pulled.
What?
Yeah, don't you know Rudy Rediker was a dirtbag? He went to prison.
Matt,
the real one, not the fictional one.
We don't say stuff like that could cause legal issues, bro.
He did.
Do you have the ticker? Do you have the ticker below? Matt's opinions do not coincide with Nick.
I am pulling it up.
Thank you. It's very kind of you.
Not the ticker. I'm the truth.
Oh no, I don't care about the truth. I don't care about that story. You're just trying to put us in some legal situations I don't want to be a part of, and I may go through a tunnel here where I lose reception if this happens.
Okay, because I am dedicated to the truth and everything. I may have been mistaken. There was no malice in this. He was charged with securities fraud in a pump and dump scheme. The settlement of the case required him to pay $382,000 in fines. So there you go. Did not go to jail. I apologize. That was my mistake. Like I said, was not said with malice. It was in sincere error. So my apologies to Rudy Rudiger for saying he is a felon. Actually, I didn't say that. I just said he went to jail. But
Matt, you may want to look at the bottom of the comment section there, bud. I don't know if that's real or not, but you may want to make some different life choices here real quick.
That's an excellent question. I don't know if it's real or not, but I've never gotten that before. Well, we have wrapped up the last of the questions. So,
Matt, sounds like a great thing. Sounds like a great time to exit.
Yes, it's worth wrapping things up. So, hey, everybody, have a great week. 41 is the mic on Sunday. We've got some great stuff for you. Oh, sure, we're ready to see Kelce and Happy Gilmore too. So, we'll talk about that here pretty soon as well. Everybody, have a great week. Take care.